Hello everybody and welcome to Decoding the WSL, the podcast dedicated to the stats and facts in the WSL. On today's show we're going to be looking back at Mother's Day and the 6 games that happened on Sunday, and also touching on to Fantasy WSL and everyone's favourite game, Know Your Stat. I've got 2 guests with me today. I'm your host Sam Stattorino.
I'm Tom Maher.
And I'm Izzy Duddy.
Yes, welcome listener to another week. Game week 18 is now done in the WSL, and we're here on Decoding the WSL to have a look through what happened this weekend. You might have heard there, I've got 2 guests reappearing on the pod, both in for their 3rd appearance. First up, we've got Tom Maher. Tom, how are you doing today?
I'm all good. We're just talking about how nice the weather is before recording. And it's putting us all in a good mood, I think, for this one.
Oh, it's absolutely glorious outside. I've not seen a cloud all day. It's just been bright blue sunshine. It's been fantastic. Izzy, we've got you on the pod as well. Izzy from Fantasy WSL. How are you doing?
Yeah, very, very good. Thank you. Similarly, basking in the glorious sunshine. So, yeah, it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, we've got 3 happy fans on this week as well, with all of our clubs winning, or club, I should say, winning. Let's have a quick review of what happened this weekend. As I've mentioned, all 6 games were on Sunday this week. It was Dominique domination at LSV in the first match of the day, Janssen opening the scoring in United's 2-0 win against Everton. Then a visit by Man City this weekend meant that Brighton lost their unbeaten home record for the season. Arsenal continued their great form, Beth Mead scoring twice in a 4-0 victory away at Palace. Spurs finally scored an open play goal without Beth England, and probably would have had more if it wasn't for Leitzig heroics. That was a 1-1 draw at the King Power. The longest losing streak in the league finally came to an end as Aston Villa came from behind to win away at Liverpool. And finally, it was the best home team in the league against the worst away team in the league, which meant, of course, it was a draw. That was 2-2 between Chelsea and West Ham, but we're going to start the pod at LSV. Yes, LSV saw the first match of the weekend. That was Man United 2, Everton 0. Everton thought they'd opened the scoring in this one, but had a goal ruled out for handball. It was then a Courtney Brosnan error that led to the first goal, something you probably don't hear very often from a very good keeper. Man United went on to win the game 2-0. That is now their 5th win in a row at home, and they are still unbeaten in the WSL. Tom, I can see you've sort of gone completely straight face at the thoughts of a Arsenal rival getting a win this weekend. How did you see this game?
Yeah, I thought it was a confident performance from Man United. You know, after Everton kind of gave them something to think about, they just kind of wilted the away side. I think it's when you have a consistent performer like Courtney Brosnan who makes an uncharacteristic mistake like that, they just looked a bit disorganised after that. And these are the kind of performances that United have been doing really well to get maximum points out of this season. I think that's why they're in such a good position this season. And I think this really puts the pressure on City, put the pressure on them. We'll talk about them later, but it really keeps the pressure on them to keep on winning, because I don't think United are too far away from really securing that spot, at least in the top 3. Is West Ham away next? We obviously saw how good they've been. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on there. But if they win that game, you wouldn't really bet against them. And obviously we've just heard the news as we're about to record that Mark Skinner's signed a new deal. So yeah, I'm sure that'll help that hopefully help the atmosphere in the team. What did you both make of that he signed a new contract?
I'm going to jump in here quick because Mark Skinner is always a topic that confuses me a little bit, because on paper, if you look at how well Manchester United are doing this season, especially in the league, 2nd in the league, there's been a bit of, I guess, good PR recently with people from Man United attending the women's games, which I assume might have led to this in some sort of capacity or been an influence anyway. But it just seems that anything that you hear from past players they never speak of Skinner specifically, but you do hear a lot. I'm thinking of obviously Jace recently. There's Jackie Grogan as well, and a couple of others that have left the club and have spoken about the fact that they had such a hard time there, and it not necessarily with the way the club's set up, but more sort of the man management, which obviously Skinner leads. So on the face of it, he seems to be doing a good job because he gets good results, and defensively they're really good. And although they've lost players in recent years like Russo and Earps, major players, they seem to still be getting the results on the pitch. But then there's the other side of it where his sort of player management seems to be really bad. And when you hear that from players that have already left. So I don't really know what to make of it. I've never met the guy. I've never spoken to the guy. I don't know what he's like that much as a person. But it seems to be something that I think is going to be really split. And I think a lot of Man United fans might not actually be too happy that the person keeping them second in the league or leading them second in the league is actually staying on for another couple of years. What about you, Izzy?
Yeah, I get the sense that he's liked by perhaps the seniors at Man United, and that's why he's kind of been supported in that role for so long. And I think, like you say, with the players, it's almost a bit marmitey. It's like if you don't get on with him necessarily, it's you don't get that kind of perhaps treatment that others like the Toons of the world probably get from Mark. He clearly has a lot of respect for his players, and I suspect it's sort of the case that he might not play favourites. I'm not going to say that, but every manager will inevitably sort of have their favourites, and it may be that if it's a fan favourite that's maybe not in his starting lineup, then yeah, the fans could get a bit antsy around that. But I mean, you can't really deny what he's done this season, and fair enough, to be fair. Like Tom said, I think I don't see them finishing outside the top three, to be honest.
Yeah, I think this top three race is going to be something that I'm really intrigued of how it's going to go. They're obviously, I think Arsenal are, because they've got a bit kind of fixtures than Man United, and obviously they're also 7 points ahead of Man City, joint on points with Man United. So I think Arsenal are a safe bet for second, and I think Man City or Man United to get third is the real one that I'm not sure about. Man City have much kind of fixtures. Man United, like you said, Tom, they've got West Ham next at West Ham. West Ham, we know, are a lot stronger at home than they are away. But that is followed by the rest of the top four. They've got Arsenal on the final day and then Chelsea and City before that. And that is just probably the worst run-in you could want as a Man United fan to have Chelsea, City and Arsenal in a row. Because realistically, you could potentially lose all three of those, especially once you lose one and that hits your confidence. That might lead into a second one, which leads into a third one. So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that goes.
And in the midst of all that, they obviously have that Manchester derby in the FA Cup as well. So they're playing their next 5 games. They're playing the rest of the top 4 in 4 out of 5 of them. I'm interested for both your thoughts on the kind of stadium situation, because obviously City, they had that United's probably best result of the season was that 4-2 win at the Etihad. City for this game in the FA Cup have chosen the Joey Stadium, and then United have chosen Old Trafford, which they obviously lost in pretty humiliating fashion at Old Trafford to Chelsea at the last day of last season. They also lost to Manchester City last season. We all remember that Chloe Kelly. I can't remember exactly what her Instagram was, but it's another box moment from her. Yeah. But I'm interested about what you both think of that. If that not playing at Leeds Sports Village in the league might be a misstep by United, or?
Yeah, I think so. To be honest, I think probably outside of maybe Brighton and Arsenal, Leeds Sports Village is one of the best sort of home grounds. And I think for United, they really thrive on that crowd as well, quite a lot more than maybe some other teams do. And it is really hard going to that bigger stadium. And we've seen at Arsenal a ton of times where they've put games on at the Emirates that maybe shouldn't have been on at the Emirates. And, had they been at Boreham Wood, it would have been a lot of a sort of, it would be more packed out and the vibe would kind of been higher. So, yeah, there's a lot of seats to fill in Old Trafford. But if they're going to fill it at any time, it is now, because it's an exciting time for the club. So yeah, I wonder, they'll probably do a real big push for that. And if I think they can kind of get those seats filled and really build up that crowd, like I have a lot of faith in United this season. They're just so consistent, and they do have a tough run of fixtures. But yeah, there's something in me telling me I'll be proved absolutely wrong after saying this on the podcast, but I've got a feeling.
I think that Leeds Sports Village, I think there's a difference between having a smaller stadium, that's one element of it, because the smaller stadiums tend to be a bit more available, and you tend to be able to, if you play in the same place all the time, you get to make it your home, and you get to have that bit more of a reputation there. I think we've seen that with West Ham are a good example. Although the Chigwell Construction Stadium isn't necessarily the flashiest, they've actually got a really good record there because it seems to be a really good home ground for them. You can get that in the big stadiums as well. Leicester have done it with the King Power. But I think one element that leads to it is the atmosphere there. And I've not been to a match at LSV before, so I can't say anything about it in person. But I do get the impression a lot of the time when they play there that it's not that full. They don't tend to sell it out. So playing at a not very full LSV compared to a not very full Old Trafford, I don't think there's going to be that much difference in like atmosphere wise. If anything, the fact that it's at Old Trafford might bring some more fans in. And I think it's probably one of those that's good for the game, good for the image. Whether it's actually good for the squad, I don't know. Something I did find interesting was, I think it was for the FA Cup game, the one that's in a couple of weeks' time at Man City, that Man United sold out their allocation in something like 2 minutes. I saw a friend of the pod, Connor Roberts, post about that earlier, which is really impressive and does show that there is a Man United fan base that is willing to go. I was going to say away. It's not really away. It's still in Manchester.
Yeah, I was about to say, they're not going far, Sam.
Traveling. And as we know, Man United fans are dotted around the country anyway, stereotypically. But there is a good amount of people that want to go to those games. And I think you probably find that with teams, I've got this theory that with teams like Arsenal, when they host a game at the Emirates, a lot of those people only will go to games at the Emirates, or they might go to 2 or 3 games a season, if that. It's sort of like sporadic fans. Whereas I think the people that support Man United, I reckon they've got a much higher percentage of fans that go to, say, over 50% of the games. And they've got a much sort of tight-knit, closer fan base than a lot of the other teams. Like they've got a lot of fans that really care. Not that many touristy fans. That's the only way I can think to describe them.
I think it kind of comes back to what Izzy was saying about like them putting money into advertising, into the socials aspect of it, you know, really trying to sell that game so that people know about it, even that they'll go. And I suppose I wonder how much United will do that with the ownership that they have. Hopefully they do. And then, like, even just now, I was like, just before this, I was flicking through Twitter and like Arsenal, I just saw a video that Arsenal had of all these players basically saying, if this person scores at Lyon, they should do this celebration. And it's so silly, but like that's the type of thing that, you know, oh yeah, I need to get my Lyon tickets. You know, I need to get tickets for that big game. Like, you know, you wonder how much United do that or will be able to do, are funded to do that. Maybe.
Yeah, I get the impression they're not funded for it much. I think a lot of the social stuff that you see from Man United it doesn't strike me as a big team that are doing lots like you get at Arsenal and Chelsea. But that might be something that comes in time. And I think it's one of those that if it is financially feasible, Man United will do it because that's how they work. That's how their ownership works. They're very commercially driven. If the only benefit from it is going to be that or the main benefit is going to be that it grows the game rather than they're actually going to get a return on the investment, they're not going to bother getting more into the marketing team or giving them more budget or whatever it is, unfortunately. Let's move over to the other side of Manchester because Man City travelled to Brighton on Sunday as well. Brighton won, Man City 2. As I mentioned in the start, this was actually Brighton's first loss of the season at home in the WSL, which surprised me. I sort of hadn't clocked that they'd gone this long. You know, there's only 4 matches to go. I assume that's 2 away and 2 at home. I haven't actually checked. But for them to have gone 9 matches, and this is the first one that they've lost at home, I thought was quite impressive. City are now 4 matches unbeaten on the road in the WSL. And I think this is a match that Brighton were probably a little bit unlucky to have lost. I had a look into the stats on it. Brighton had 23 shots compared to Man City's 12, and they actually got more XG than Man City, 1.9 compared to 1.7. So both roughly 2. You would expect this game to finish about 2-2, given the chances that each team have. But Manchester City have come out on top, and it's going to be a disappointing one for Brighton. Izzy, was this a result that you kind of expected? Was it a sort of a way the match went that you expected?
Do you know what? Yes and no. I think I was expecting Brighton to put up a good performance. Like you say, they've been great at home. They also are another team that have a great home atmosphere. I thought City definitely could have played better. But at the end of the day, if you have Mead and then you bring her on and she scores a banger like that, I mean, that's the difference between City and Brighton right now, unfortunately, isn't it? And I think Brighton probably could have been a bit tighter defensively. But like you say, I think a bit unlucky for Brighton. I think they should have got another one in. And it was nice to see Rule score her first goal. I love it when that happens. We love a first goal. And it's great for fantasy as well. So
I think she hadn't played for a while as well, I believe. She'd been out for some time. So this was sort of her first match back.
I think so, yeah.
Are we talking visionary, Izzy?
We will be later, yeah. We are talking visionary, though. Good, about as visionary as they get, I think.
I'll get my notebook out for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how well. I haven't looked, but I'm sure Izzy, you might know. But I can't imagine many people will have already had her in her team or will have transferred her in last week.
Actually, a weird fact, and I won't jump ahead too much, but this surprised me when I was going through the visionaries, is that she is on the same ownership as Micah Hamano.
Oh, really? That does
Which felt weird to me because even I owned Micah Hamano at one point, and like it just feels like that is not an equation. But I guess Hamano hasn't played for Chelsea for a while, so maybe that's why. But yeah, there's a fun fact about Charlie's Rule. They're both on 0.7%.
0.7. That is more. That is both less than I thought for Hamano and also more than I thought for Rule. I think I mean, I can come back to it later, but I think I always try and, not always, but I've tended to avoid Chelsea players a lot this season. So although they're very good, I have coined the term bombastal bingo because I just don't know who she's going to play each game. It's just chance at this point because you can't quite predict, other than the fact Hannah Hampton's going to be in goal, Millie Bright's going to be a centre-back. That's pretty much all you know. But yeah, let's move on to the next game of the day. This one was one that I think, unless you're a Palace fan, put a big smile on most people's faces. Palace 0, Arsenal 4. I say put a smile on people's faces because Beth Mead scored her 50th and 51st Arsenal goal. I think this is obviously quite a poignant moment for her. Obviously, this was on Mother's Day. Beth Mead lost her mum. And I did see her dad put out a really nice post about this as well, sort of saying that how much of a nice moment this would have been and how proud her mum would be of her. This is Arsenal's... Arsenal have now got the longest winning run in the WSL, 6 wins in a row. They are really a team on form. Obviously, this is on top of, I guess, a Champions League win, if you take it as a whole, rather than the 2 fixtures. But no other team in the WSL has a winning run longer than 2 matches, and that is only Man United. No other team has won more than 1 in a row. So there's a lot chopping and changing in the WSL at the moment, other than the fact that Arsenal keep on winning. Palace lose without scoring for the second match running. I believe, I can't remember how long it was, but they did have quite a long run earlier in the season of doing this as well, where they just kept losing and kept not scoring in games. They, obviously, Laura Kaminsky left. They've now got Liv Smirud, and they seem to have a little bit of a new manager bounce where they were scoring some more goals, but does this look like do you think they're just dropping back into old habits? And do you think this is kind of looking like the end of Palace? What do you think, Tom?
I think they were missing. They've had a really real injury crisis the whole time Liv Smirud's been in charge. I mean, they were missing from this game Clarissa Larise, who's been starting. I think she started every game under him so far, and she really provides a pacey dynamic up front that they've relied on alongside Veerden. And I think they really missed that in this game. And that was potentially something they would have looked at before this game, because I was interested to see how Arsenal were going to manage without McCabe. Obviously, thought Nijswonga was going to come in, but she hasn't played many minutes for Arsenal this season. So I was interested to see how she got on. I did think she did really well in the end. But I think for Palace, I feel like this weekend looks like they've messed up, but I don't think when they were thinking about when Leesmer had sat down and thought these are the games that we've got left, these are the points we need to get. I don't think he would have been targeting this game as a game where they're going to get 3 points or get even a point at the best, I'd say. And they've really obviously just been the kick in the teeth that Villa have beaten Liverpool, because the 2 games that Palace would be focusing on for the rest of the season are surely they've got Leicester and West Ham. And they have to win both those games to stand any chance, really, because I think the other 2 that they have is it Manchester City and Chelsea?
The West Ham and Leicester game are both at Palace, and then they've got Chelsea and Man City, which are both away.
So they just absolutely have to win those 2 home games to stand even the remotest chance, because I think one more win for Villa would be curtains for Palace, I'm afraid now. And I think they have improved. He's given them more belief, Smurrid, and a new dynamic. They've looked like that was probably their worst performance under him so far, because they played Chelsea, lost 1-0. They've beaten Aston Villa. They've lost 1-0 to Liverpool. These have all been quite tight games. And then obviously, to lose to a team like Arsenal, who, like you were saying there, Sam, are on the best form of any team in the league. It's a tough one. And I think Arsenal really won the game in the wings as well, because I think Chloe Kelly and Beth Mead really gave. It's Hayley Nolan at the start at wing back, who was just coming back as her first game back at injury, and imagine then having Chloe Kelly running at you. It's not very fun for poor Hayley Nolan, and she came off, and then India Paige Riley came on, and I don't think Riley had much better luck against those 2. And I think for Arsenal fans, that's really positive, because Chloe Kelly and Beth Mead playing together, they proved they can do it.
Yeah, they're obviously 2 players that, well, I think they were both at Arsenal together before, when Chloe Kelly was at Arsenal the first time. I think Beth Mead had joined by that point. So they knew each other a little bit there. They've obviously spent time together at England as well, and they seem to get on really well, which I think helps with it. I'm very intrigued to see what happens with Chloe Kelly over the summer. I can't see her staying at Man City. It doesn't sound like, from what no one particularly knows what's going on, unless someone's got some inside knowledge. It doesn't seem like Gareth Taylor himself was necessarily the problem, but the club as a whole. But then she's having such a good time at Arsenal. Would she want to go to a Man United or somewhere else like that? Izzy, you won't know any inside, I assume, but where do you think Chloe Kelly's going to end up after the summer?
That is a very difficult call. I'm going to make my pledge her to stay at Arsenal forevermore. I think it's difficult. She's made such a difference to the squad. And I also think, like you said, Beth Mead has improved her game significantly since Chloe Kelly came in. And I do think there's something to be said of that sort of lioness link up, that you've got Leah Williamson, you've got Chloe Kelly, and you've got, it's that 2022 crowd that know each other very well. I think, to be honest, I think she should stay somewhere in the top at least 4 of the league, if not go into Europe. I don't think Chloe Kelly should be sort of going anywhere that's not targeting Champions League, to be quite honest, because I just think she's actually, when she's good, she's incredible, and I think she needs somewhere where she can just consistently do that. Whether that's United, whether it's staying at Arsenal, whether it's going abroad, I don't know. But I can't see her going back to City, to be honest. It seems like that ship has sort of sailed.
Yeah, I see Tom nodding as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think she's done so well, and it sounds like they're very impressed with her at Arsenal as well. And obviously she's playing games, she's starting games. The last 2 games, she's probably been one of the 2 best players on the pitch in two of the most consequential. Well, that Real Madrid game, of course, was hugely consequential to Arsenal's season, and then after such a emotionally taxing game, it could have been easy to kind of see levels drop against a team like Palace who desperately need a result, but that didn't happen. Certainly not in Chloe Kelly's case. So, I think Arsenal on their part would be extremely. It's my impression that they'd be extremely keen to keep her on board, I'd say.
Yeah, I think the other thing to consider is that she's a very, she's, as well as being a really good player commercially, she's really good for the club, and the club I think would be very good for her commercially. Arsenal have a really big fan base. She's also quite a household name. I think if you spoke to people that aren't really into women's football, they probably still know the name Chloe Kelly. They probably still know who she is. And I think she's a player that you could imagine that if you, I don't know, see like a small child wearing an Arsenal shirt or an England shirt, you wouldn't be surprised to see Chloe Kelly on the back, because she's that kind of player that people look up to. So yeah, I think that football wise, it's a really good fit. I think she fits well in Arsenal's system. I think it will fluctuate a little bit as it always does, but a lot of the time she'll be a starter for the club. And yeah, hopefully it'll be a really good move for her career, both on and off the pitch as well. Let's move to the next game we've got, which is Leicester 1, Spurs 1. This was a game that, well, when I watched it back, Spurs were generally on top in the game, but they just couldn't make it count. They've had a real problem recently in the last few months with not being able to score from open play. Other than if it was Beth England, she is obviously now out injured. So yeah, they were only managing to score from set pieces. But in this game, they managed more than 2 XG from open play, including 3.3 XG on target. But Janina Leitzig was in the way. She was on really good form on Sunday, which really kept Leicester in it. I don't think they deserved a draw out of this game, but Janina Leitzig made sure they got one. Leicester have now got the longest unbeaten run at home outside the top 3. And for Spurs, it ended a run of 5 WSL defeats, which I guess are good things for both sides. Who do you think will be more happy, Tom, with the point from this game?
I think Leicester would certainly be more happy with the point. They rode their luck at times and they relied on Janina Leitzig. I mean, when she's at her best, Janina Leitzig, she's one of the best goalkeepers in the league. I remember that when they signed her in that January, I think they were bottom of the league at the time, and then she just was so important to them staying in the division. And when she's playing well, yeah, that it just gives them so much more security. I think Spurs be disappointed not to have won, but I think the main thing would have been not to lose again. I think there was plenty of positives. I thought Jess Naz was so much better than she has been. She had some direct running. It was her run and pass that set up Drew Spence's goal as well. I think that's the mark of the character of a person like Jess Naz after, she's been cut from the England squad, not travelling with the squad for this doubleheader against Belgium in the Nations League, and for her to probably put in her best performance since the opening day for Tottenham in the league. I think that's exactly what her manager and Sarina Weigmann probably would want to see. I think for Tottenham, they're at a bit of a crossroads now because, they're nowhere near where they would have wanted to be, where their ambitions lie as a club. And I think they have been really unlucky. Like even against West Ham last week, I was covering that game, and in the first half they should have been ahead, and then they go in 1-0 down. And you've just got things like Evelina Sumanen hitting the crossbar twice in 2 games from free kick now. Those 2 go in, and you might be looking at a different story over the last few games. And I think they're a really tricky one to pin down, I think, Tottenham. I'd be interested to hear what you both think about them.
They always puzzle me because last season they were so good. I mean, obviously they had Clinton, they had Bizet last season. I just think that they frustrate me because there's so much potential in that squad that never seems to be quite there. But it doesn't also seem to be sort of the kind of fault of the club itself. Like, we know there are some clubs that maybe don't invest in their women's team as much. Spurs is not one of those clubs. And I think they have a lot of ambition for their team, and they've got a lot of great players. And so when I see them sort of drawing against sides like Leicester, yeah, it always feels weird to me because I feel like every season they could either end up fourth or they could end up like 10th, and I never know which one it's going to be. So it like, I always just think it's a shame when they get to that kind of bottom half of the table, because I always think about their games and just think, maybe they shouldn't actually be there, and I'm never quite sure how they are.
Yeah, it's always a strange one because they like you say, they go through sort of periods of doing really well and then not doing so well. I think they finished sixth last year. I think I said at the start of this season that I was going to be surprised if they finish in the bottom half. And look, they don't look like they're getting out of the bottom half now. I wanted to touch on Jess Naz as well, because you mentioned, Tom, that it's probably her best performance since first game of the season. It was actually the first time she's had a goal involvement since the first game of the season as well. She's had just a really long dry spell, which is probably part of the reason that she's been dropped out of the England squad. I think when she's on form, when she's confident, when she's driving at players, when she wants to take people on, she looks really good. And I think she's probably pushing for a starting place in the England side. Whereas at the moment, she's out of form. She's not confident. She's not doing, or she hasn't been anyway, doing all the right things. So yeah, Serena's dropped her out, which when you're only a few months away from a Euros is really bad news for Jess. But hopefully she comes back and will be, for her sake, doing much better. Doing much better.
Better to drop out now when you have a chance to do something about it than be dropped when Serena's picking her final squad. So she's got a few games. Villa is going to be really interesting actually next week between those two. They must be like the two sides on the worst form in the league, obviously, aside from this weekend for Villa.
Yeah, well, before this week, Spurs were on a 5-game losing streak and Villa were on a 6-game losing streak. Villa had the worst run, and it very nicely moves us on to the next match. Good work, Tom. That is Liverpool 1, Villa 2. This was a really dull first half. I watched the highlights back. I think there was one highlight, and it was about 20 seconds of the 3 or 4 minute clip that was on the Women's Football Show on the BBC. But Liverpool took the lead. Serena D'Angelo took down Kerry Holland, who got played through on a one-on-one. Played through by Marie Herbinger, who then converted the penalty that she'd given away, that D'Angelo had given away. But it ended up being 2-1 to Villa. Something I did notice in this game, well, two things. One was that when Kirsty Hansen came on, Villa as a team tended to look a lot more threatening. They tended to have a bit more oomph in their step, I guess. She managed to score less than 3 minutes after she subbed on. A brilliantly weighted ball in from Missy Kearns, and then obviously Villa made it 2-1 late on with another own goal for Liverpool. But yeah, Villa just seemed like another side once Kirsty Hansen had been subbed on. Izzy, were you a bit surprised to see Kirsty Hansen having to be subbed on rather than starting? Because for my money, she's probably been their best player in the last few weeks.
Yeah, I can only assume there was some kind of tactical thing going on there, because if I were in charge, I'd be starting her any day. But yeah, I think, in all honesty, I wasn't surprised by this result. I think I was kind of waiting for that Villa comeback, and I was watching, I think it was after the United game, I was watching the post match interview with their manager, and she was talking about the sort of psychological work that they've been doing with the team. And it did feel like, at least to me, it was just like a matter of time before things started to sink in, and they just kind of had their one little revenge match that kind of pushed it on away. And I thought, again, I also didn't watch the whole match and watched the highlights back, but Liverpool didn't look on form. Obviously, they didn't have Olivia Smith. They looked a bit sloppy at times. maybe those are just the clips I was watching, but I think had Janssen started, it could have even been a different story, to be honest. I'm not 100% sure why she was subbed on, but I guess Villa are glad that she was.
Yeah, I'm very glad that she was subbed on because she has been sitting in my fantasy team for about 4 weeks, giving me 1 or 2 points a week, despite playing really well, just not really getting any returns. So I was very
Finally earning her rent.
finally. Tom, how about you? What did you see in this game?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most interesting stats about Kirsty Janssen is that she's still got the most successful take-ons leading to a goal attempt in the league, which I think is very impressive, especially for when you're playing for a side like Villa who've been struggling. I share what your view there, Izzy, on Natalia Arroyo. I think she's a really interesting manager. What has struck me about her press conferences is that she's really raw. She doesn't hold anything back. She's honest about how she's feeling, about what the fact that she doesn't want to be a manager who's manages a team to be relegated. And I think a lot of, when she's been in Spain at Sociedad, the lowest they ever finished under her, and she was there for 5 years, was 8th. And that sounds, in the WSL context, that sounds worse than it is because there's 16 teams in Liga Jefe. So that's slap bang mid-table. And, she finished second with them and obviously got to the final, the Copa del Reina. So, I don't think she's used to this kind of like proper English relegation zone battle, and I think that's taken a bit of time. And you could see positives about their performances. I actually saw the lineup, and I noticed Kirsty Janssen wasn't starting, and I also noticed Jordan Nobbs wasn't starting, and I just thought, what is she thinking? This is and obviously they go on to win, but so she must know something that we don't. But yeah, I feel like they deserve the luck that they got in this game. Obviously, the winner is Jenna Clark putting into her own net, which is difficult for Liverpool fans. But Villa have kind of they've been struggling. I mean, and to get that luck is just what they needed, because I think I saw the other day there was only one game that Arroyo's managed them in that there wasn't a mistake from a Villa player that led directly to a goal for the opposition. And obviously that's happened today in that game as well, with D'Angelo giving away the penalty. So those are the type of things that you just can't keep on doing. And I think she is the kind of manager who's going to benefit from a summer, bringing in her own players for a distinctive style of play to like press high. And yeah, I think it could be exciting next season for Villa with her, because I think she's a long-term pick, and she's obviously got the board behind her. Like, is it the director Monchi was thought to be like really key in bringing her into the setup, both being Spaniards and everything. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes on.
Obviously, the men's side, they've got a Spanish manager as well, who I believe was brought in by the same sporting director. So they're obviously moving in a certain type of direction. It's going well on the men's side, so who's say it won't go well on the women's? Izzy, actually, you were nodding along for a lot of what Tom just said there.
Yeah, I mean, I can't pretend to say I know as much about Villa as you probably do, Tom, but from what I've seen of the new manager, yeah, I really like her. I really like her style. And again, Villa, especially last season, one of those teams, a bit like Tottenham, sort of when they were good, like you kind of expect them to be a lot higher than they were. And I think, come next season, hopefully, if they can stay up, which I think they probably will, I think actually we could see like quite a nice turnaround for them, or at least I'm hoping to, because again, they're a team with some great players, and it feels like they deserve to be doing a lot better than they are.
Yeah, I think it says something about the team as well when you've got, they're only 4 points ahead of Palace now, ahead of getting relegated, but they've got so many really good players in that side. Kirsty Janssen, as we've already spoken about, I put something out the other day. She's outside the top 14. She's the player with the most progressive carries and carries into the box as well. So on the ball, she's looking fantastic. Lucy Parker is in the England side, despite being at centre back for a team that is second bottom in the league, because she is so good. And obviously Anna Patton is playing for her country as well. There's a lot of really good players, a really good mix of experience, with people like Jordan Nobbs in there as well, but also some good youth coming through. And yeah, Villa seem like one of those clubs that even if you don't support them, you kind of want them to do well. You don't really want them to get relegated. No one, or very few people, hate Villa. Obviously, like a lot of the teams up north, you think of the two teams in Liverpool, you think of the two teams in Manchester. Anyone at Man City probably wants Man United to do badly. No one really wants Villa to do badly. They seem like a good club, a well-run club. And yeah, I wish them well. Let's move on to, I was going to say another rivalry, but in the loosest term, just because they both play in London, it was Chelsea 2, West Ham 2. As I mentioned, Chelsea have the best home form in the league. They are now I think the only team alongside Manchester United. They're undefeated at home. Against the worst away team in the league, West Ham before Sunday had only got 1 point from, I think, 8 games away, but somehow managed to get a draw from 2-0 down. Shekiera Martinez at the double. I did see West Ham put a stat up as well that since January, so when she was signed, she's actually the top scorer in the WSL with 5 goals, which shows that she's been a really good signing. I'll be honest, I didn't really know much about her. I didn't really know. I knew she was a forward, and that was about all I had. But yeah, she seemed to come in and absolutely revolutionise what's going on. Izzy, your eyebrows nearly hit the ceiling when I said that about her being the top scorer. I'm assuming
that doesn't again, it just doesn't register in my brain, but I'm not surprised. And do you know what? I've got a real soft spot for West Ham. And I hate saying it because I'm a fan of a London club, and historically my family have been West Ham supporters as well. And I've sort of prided myself on not being one. But their women's squad, I've got a real soft spot for them. I think they've got a great team. I'm also biased because their goalie's Polish, so we've got to support. But do you know what? Their attacking threat when it's on. I love watching them play, and I did. I think that second goal for them was offside, was it not? So that was a bit unlucky for Chelsea. Chelsea probably should have won that game, but I'm not going to complain. I have nothing to say except great vibes from West Ham.
Yeah, it was a game that I think Chelsea will kind of rue their missed chances a little bit in as well. I heard I sort of delved into a bit deeper because when I was watching the highlights on the Women's Football Show, they mentioned about Chelsea missing so many shots. They actually had 24 shots in this game, which being Chelsea isn't overly surprising, but they only got 5 on target, which means 19 of their shots didn't even hit the target at 24, which is about 80%. For context, about 36% of shots in the WSL this season have been on target. So yeah, in this game of Chelsea, are only getting about 20% on target. That's quite low. And you would expect the better teams like Chelsea, they are literally top of the league. You'd expect those sort of teams to be really good on those numbers. You'd expect them to be the ones that are pulling everyone up, not being sort of half as good as most teams are. Something that no one seems to have picked up on, so I thought I'd put a post out about it earlier this week, is that Chelsea are now guaranteed Champions League football next year. They are now guaranteed to finish in the top 3. Mathematically, Man City cannot catch them. So they are in the top 3. I think it goes some way to show how good Chelsea have been this season and how dominant they are and how much people are expecting them to win the league, that no one gave a shit that they're guaranteed to finish in the top 3. Because, so what? Of course they are. That was going to happen anyway. It doesn't matter if it's mathematically impossible for them to fall out now. But yeah, they've maintained their unbeaten run in the WSL. It's the first time they've dropped points at home this season in the WSL as well, which is, I think, quite big for West Ham. They've only got 1 point away all season. I think before this game, I want to say I probably should have written this down, but off the top of my head, I think they had 18 points this season. 17 of them they'd got at home. So, yeah, I wasn't expecting them to get a point at all. But For me, West Ham need a bit more recruitment in the summer. I think they're being kept up by their sort of star performers. You think of, obviously, Shekiera Martinez is one of those, Vivis Sayi, Katrina Gorry. They're probably three of the best players in the bottom half of the league. But I don't think the rest of their squad is necessarily performing at the right level. I think they're all sort of WSL level players. But if they want to move up into that top half, I think they need a bit of investment. And I don't know too much about West Ham as a club, but it doesn't seem like they're getting it. Tom, you, by the sound of it, practically live at West Ham. Did you go there that often? What did you think about this game and just about West Ham season in general?
Yeah, I do love the Chigwell. I was I was at Kings Meadow for this one. I was covering this game, and yeah, I've been impressed with West Ham all season. Really, I think they've been they weren't getting results when they deserved them, and I feel like they're getting them now, and they still deserve them. Really, I feel like, yeah, it's interesting because I think this last year of recruitment's been really good. Obviously, they've got Shemek from Stattorino in the summer, and she's been a really good keeper for them. They obviously lost Mackenzie Arnold. That was that felt like that could be a really big loss for them, but I don't think it's been really felt through the team, to be honest, because Shemek's done such a good job. And then you're looking at Verena Hanshaw as well, who's been really good, Austrian international. She's come into side. I thought she was brilliant against Chelsea as well. I think and even Una Siren and even Neve Strom, all these players are it feels like it's coming together for them. Like when I was we were hearing from Rianne Skinner after the game, and she was kind of telling us about how a lot of it was kind of bringing these players together who, you got Manuela Pavi, who doesn't speak English to a level where she can communicate that well on the pitch. So, if you ever go down to Chigwell Construction Stadium, you can hear Rianne Skinner shouting Manuela Aki to come near, or wherever the positioning she wants her to be. But I thought it was impressive from this weekend because, yeah, I'll take you back to the 36th minute, 2-0 down against the side you lost 5-0 to at home earlier this year. Your captain's just limped off injured. I can't say how impressive it is to come back to stay in the game, come back against Chelsea and draw 2-2. I thought Dagny Briansdottir, who came in for Katrina Gorry, was really, really good. She gave a bit of creativity in that midfield. And yeah, I think I have a bit of sympathy for Chelsea because obviously they've played a game on Thursday night. It's not hugely common in the women's game to play on Thursday night and then Sunday as well. And they made 7 changes from that team that played on Thursday night. And obviously West Ham were able to just make 1, and that wasn't through injury or anything like that. That was just because I think it was Lee Mengwen came in to switch to a back 5 for Manuela Pavi. So that gave them a little bit more stability in the game that they wanted to play, I suppose. And I thought Mika Hamano was Chelsea's best player in this one. I asked Sonia Bonpastor about her after the game, and she said, because I thought, obviously VK Captain started the game at Stamford Bridge against City, and I think in Mika Hamano's position, I can imagine that would be disappointing. But so I put that to Sonia Bonpastor, and she said the way Mika performed today, she showed her quality, first of all. And I know anytime I need to put her starting a game, she'll respond positively. So, yeah, I think that says all you need to know about how much the players are kind of believing in Sonia Bonpastor and in what they're trying to do at Chelsea. And I think it was kind of, because Millie Bright came off at half time and Lucy Bronze came on. Both of those 2 players played every minute of those 4 games against City. It was kind of I think West Ham did extremely well to take advantage of the game state in the way that it was, because I think Chelsea did get complacent, but really, it's not going to affect anything, is it? They're going to win the title. It's great for West Ham. And Shekiera Martinez, what a signing she is. But yeah, I think there'll be. I don't think any Chelsea fans should be staying up at night because those 2 points dropped.
Yeah, I don't think Chelsea are going to be too worried. With 4 games to go, Chelsea and Arsenal have the same goal difference, but Arsenal are 6 points behind. So Arsenal need to win 2 more matches than Chelsea do for the rest of the season, which realistically isn't going to happen. As much as I would love it, no, I think Chelsea are very, very well-deserved victors of the WSL. I'm making it sound like it's finished. We've still got 4 more weeks of it, I promise. Don't run away yet, listener. It's not done. That is our sort of roundup of the weekend's games, though. So the 6 games that we had. We haven't got any to look ahead to this week because there is an international break. But we will move on next to talk a bit about Fantasy WSL. Yes, Fantasy WSL, the sort of recurring segment that we've got here on Decoding the WSL. And rather than me talk you through it, because we've got Izzy on the pod, Izzy, you can lead this bit.
Thank you very much. I don't know where to start. I'm going to start with our risers and fallers this week because I think these might be, because we have a significant break now over the international break, people aren't as quick to make their transfers, which is advised, by the way. Don't make your transfers until don't use our app until after the international break. But go on, I'll give you, I liked it when I did this last time. So take a guess at who the most transferred in player was this week.
Yeah, I forgot about this. I should have looked ahead about who I thought this might be. I reckon the most transferred in player is going to be someone that's been on really hot form this weekend and played for a top team. So I'm going to say it might be Beth Mead.
Tom?
That's what I was going to say.
Well, I can tell you Beth Mead is not even on our top 10.
Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh. Okay.
So people are really delayed.
Oh, okay. If people are delayed, then who played well the week before last? I'm going to go Mariona Caldente.
Also didn't make the list this week, actually.
Oh, we're all over the place, Sam.
Yeah, I know. You were close enough with Beth Mead. It is our friend, the GOAT, Viv Miedemar, who was transferred in by 822 people. JRK is back on the list. She went very quiet after a cracking start to Fantasy WSL, so she was transferred in quite a lot. I think it will be no surprise to everyone that Russo, Williamson, Cuthbert and Clinton are up there. And also what we love to see is Carolyn as well has had a pretty big fantasy boost. So she's up there now. Bunny Shaw continues to fall. Beth England as well, because she's out for injury. Brutally, 730 people took Katie McCabe out of their team.
I saw someone on Twitter, I can't remember exactly who it was. It was one of, because there's a few people that are sort of fancy WSL experts. And to be fair, this person, I can't remember who it was, they were showing why they're an expert because they took McCabe out to put Niswanger in and said they were doing it for one match to then put Katie McCabe back in. And that has paid off because she did quite well, didn't she, Niswanger?
She did. She got 9 points, and I can tell you she was a visionary at 0.3%. Tom, did you have Niswanger?
I brought her in this week, yeah. It's not going to get better than this for me. I might just delete my team.
Yeah, you've won now. Give up. It's not getting better than this. Yes. Well, yeah. See, people, I may work on the game, but I certainly am nowhere near as good at it as some people out there. So I look to those people for advice as well. But yeah, I think, in terms of people being transferred out, there's no real surprises there. Other than Katie McCabe, I thought was a bit brutal. It's literally just one game. She's also one of the top scorers in the game as a whole. So I thought kind of a bit unnecessary. I'd just bench her for the week, but fine, you do you. Kirsty Hansen actually was transferred out by 423 people. So there are 423 people really kicking themselves this
Not
week.
me. I actually started Hansen this week as well, over 2 Everton players and Mikata as well. So I was pretty happy with my choice. I was just checking my team and how I got on. I actually also transferred out Katie McCabe this week. Although in my defence, I did it to put Leah Williamson in, who...
I think at that point it's fair enough.
Yeah, she'll stay in my team as well.
So that's the risers and fallers. And for the team of the week, an excellent lineup. Other than the Chelsea and Everton players, so this player used the wall, and their back line was Bjorn, Williamson, Kasparai, Janssen, who was captained, and Homeguard. When people play like the wall and captain like a rogue defender, I sometimes wonder if they're cheating. I don't know how it's possible, but yeah. So that was pretty impressive. This person got 94 points overall. Clinton and Hanson were also made the team. So congratulations to I Love Kung Fu. Just an excellent name. And I also have to give out a shout out to Kasparai because I don't know if either of you follow her iconic Instagram posts with her funny captions, but this week she gave us a shout out and she followed Fantasy WSL on Instagram. So Kirsten Kasparai is officially a friend of the game.
She was playing on the wing, wasn't she? She could be
exactly
now if she stays on the wing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she's been an extremely popular player the whole way through the season, actually, and been consistently racking up points. But she obviously got that goal this weekend, so that's 8 points for her. And as she rightly said, she owed her players some fantasy football points. I also transferred her out many weeks ago, so sorry, Kirsten, I take it all back. I'll buy you after the international break. Visionaries, obviously Shekiera Martinez, 16 points and 0.4% ownership. So that is that's a pretty good one if you had Martinez. We spoke about Hamano and Rule and Nysonga. The only probably other notable ones were Riko Oeki is actually a visionary now. She's at 1.9%, so she's just fallen below the threshold. And Anna Sandberg of United as well got 8 points, and she's on 0.8%. So the list of visionaries this week wasn't as huge as it usually was, but I think Martinez getting 16 points is pretty lifting the whole side up.
It's amazing that she's top scorer since January and less than 2% of people have got her. Saying that, I'm sure that once the game week comes around, I'll make any probably necessary transfers I need to, and probably still won't put her in. Because despite the fact she just scored 2 against Chelsea, I'll look at it and go, nah, she's not going to score against me.
I might even just bring in Martinez and Kasparai right now, to be honest. Just roll the dice.
Exactly. Get them while they're cheap.
Yeah.
So there's a good little bit about Fantasy WSL. It's always great having Izzy on because I feel like you deliver it a lot better than I do, seeing as you're a bit closer to the data, aren't you?
Yes, but shame that doesn't reflect. You're much better at the game than I am, Sam. So I think, you win some, you lose some.
If I had to take it one way round, that's the way I'd rather have it. So great.
Me too, but hey.
Before we move on from Fantasy, obviously Fantasy WSL is what we've just touched on as well, but there is Fantasy NWSL that has been going on. I think we're 3 game weeks in now. Am I right, Izzy?
I believe so, yes. I'm losing track of all the game weeks.
Yeah, I guess when you've got 2 games to sort of manage, they kind of all roll into each other in some sort of way. But
and I also forget that like America is just like a completely different time zone, and I'm like, why is people scoring at like midnight?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't watched any of the games, but I will I have every time, every week, I'll have a look after and see how I did. And I will put some thought into what matches are coming up, who's got good matchups, who should I transfer out and in. But I think for someone that doesn't know much about the NWSL, especially the teams, I know some of the players, but I don't know much about the teams and what ones are generally better than others. So I'm pretty happy that this week, again, I outscored the average, this time by 13 points. I've just had a look through and I've actually outscored the average every week so far. So that is good for someone that doesn't know anything to be above average every week. I am very happy with that. There is the Stattorino League, listener. If you want to come and join it, please do. I know we're 3 weeks in, but it's only 3. There's plenty more to go. If you go to join the league on the Fantasy WSL app, type in the code decoding and you'll be straight in. So yeah, there's a bit about fantasy all done. Let's move on to the podcast game of Know Your Stat. Yes, it is everyone's favourite game. It is Know Your Stat. Tom, you don't have to agree with that because I know you've got a different game on your pod. But for the rest of us, at least, let's pretend it's our favourite game. Know Your Stat. It is essentially a game of categories. I'm going to give Izzy and Tom category. They're going to take turns naming. In this case, for all 3 today, it is players that fit into the category. There are no lives on offer today, so if you get one wrong, you are out. Or if you take too long to answer, you are out. And it will act sort of sudden death, so you have to outscore your opponent. So, for example, Tom, you're going to go first on the first round. If you get one wrong, Izzy does then need to get one right in order to win. Okay, let's move into it. So, the first round we're going to do today is about creativity. So, this one is, I would like you to name for me the 28 players that have at least 40 shot-creating actions in the WSL this season. 40 or more shot-creating actions. There are 28 players to be named. Tom, to go first.
Okay, we're going to start with Mariona Caldente.
Yep, she is number 1, 80.
Alessia Russo.
Alessia Russo is a very early end to the game. Tom has taken round 1 already. Alessia Russo has 39 shot-creating actions in the WSL this season.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, Alessia.
She is the
You have
29th
let me
player on the
down.
list.
God, one little pass from Alessia Russo and you would have been in there.
Just take one more free kick to be won.
You know what? Those 3 goals at the Emirates are suddenly not looking like enough to me.
Just before we started this round as well, listener, you won't hear this, but Tom said Izzy's looking really confident about this.
Well, okay, fine. It's fine. Best of 3, right?
Yeah, Izzy's going very Aston Villa on this rather than cruising for a 3-0 victory. She's going
to Kirsty Janssen this.
So I'm going to, sorry for talking for a while now, but I'm going to go through the list of players you could have had. So you could have had Alba Fagino, Kat Macario, Drew Spence, Ella Toone, Emily Fox, Fran Kirby, Frida Marnham, Grace Clinton, Guro Reiten, Jess Naz, Jill Roord, Johanna Ritten-Conrad, Katie McCabe, Lauren Hemp, Lauren James, Leila Habi, Lucy Bronze, Micah Hamano, Marie Herbinger, Mary Fowler, Myra Ramirez, Nikita Paris, Olivia Smith, Rico Oeki, Shurka Nuskin, Vivasei, and Yui Hasegawa.
So I could have just chosen like any other player.
Yeah, basically.
Great.
Was Russo the next one then after Yui Hasegawa?
I thought with 28 players on that list, the game will last a bit. I don't need to give anyone a life, but there we go. Well, let's see.
I would have definitely bet Russo was on that list, to be fair. I would have been saying that myself, I'm sure.
Yeah, on all of these lists, there's always a few that you're like, I'm surprised they're on there. But that's the joys of Know Your Stat.
That time everyone, we move, we go again.
You've got to know your stat to be good at Know Your Stat. So, Izzy, we're going to go to you first on this round. This one, there are only 20 players. I would like you to name for me the players that have won at least 25 tackles in the WSL this season. There are 20 players, as I said, and Izzy to go first.
Kirsty Janssen.
Kirsty Janssen is an incorrect answer. It is not looking good, Izzy.
What?
Kirsty Janssen, I'm just finding her on my list. Kirsty Janssen has...
It's rigged.
20. So she's 5 tackles off. So, Tom, you just need any of the 20 players with 25 or more, and it's 2-0.
I'm pretty sure every season Ashley Neville is like right up there with this stat. Ashley Neville.
And you would be correct. She is number one with 60 so far. The players that you could have had, there are 19 of them, obviously. It was Lexi Potter, Anouk Denton, Azmita Ali, Celine Bazette, CJ Bott, Claire Wheeler, Drew Spence, Grace Clinton, Heather Payne, Jade Riviere, Katrina Gorry, Kirsten Kasparai. Thought you'd been going for her after we've been speaking about her. Mariana Caldente, Una Siren, Ruby Mace, Sarah Holmgard, Sjurka Nusken, Taylor Hines, and Vivasei.
That's a really interesting mix.
Ruined your game, Sam.
It is quite an interesting mix, Tom, to be fair, because you would assume, I think, for people that, if you haven't really looked at this stat much before, you would assume that tackles won is largely defenders. But there's actually quite a lot of midfielders in there, and you even get some sort of more forward players like Caldente and Asei, Celine Bizet. So even though they're not necessarily defenders, they're still picking a lot of tackles because, as Maldini famously said, if I've had to put a tackle in, I've done something wrong.
That was a tough one on Izzy. You don't get any points for tackles on Fantasy WSL. She doesn't care about the tackles.
Yeah, literally. I don't know about that stuff.
Don't tackles go into the bonus points, Izzy?
Sam, these are all technicalities.
Yeah. Right, well, Izzy, you've got to do well on this one because otherwise this will go down.
No, I'm ready.
Yeah, this will go down as an all-time stinker otherwise. So you are, as you're 2-0 down, you can go first on this one, Izzy. It is.
Oh, thank you.
There are 30 players on this list. I would like you to name for me any player that has completed at least 600 passes in the WSL this season.
Maher Letizia.
She is not on. No, I'm joking. She is. She's 12th on the list. 910.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
So me. Leia Alexandri.
Yep, she is number one. 1,210.
Millie Bright.
Yep, she's number two. 1,163.
Guro Bergsvand.
Guro Bergsvand is number three.
Oh my god.
Going in order.
Leah Williamson.
Leah Williamson is number four.
I feel like this should be worth like 3 points.
There's pressure now.
Steph Catley.
Well, firstly, I'm disappointed that you haven't got number 5 on the list straight away, but Steph Catley is in the list, 921.
Don't time me out because I'm nervous. I'm really nervous. I'm gonna go for Lucy Bronze.
Lucy Bronze is a correct answer. Just shy of 800 passes completed.
I'm gonna go Yui Hasegawa.
Yep, she is number 8.
Kim Little.
Kim Little has completed 605, just about in the list.
Millie Turner.
Millie Turner is a correct answer. She's number 19.
Fuka Nagano. I'm just going all out.
Fuka Nagano is an incorrect answer. She's completed 433 so far. So that does still mean that Tom needs to give a correct answer in order to take the win.
I'm going to go with my goat, Katie McCabe.
Katie McCabe
It's so embarrassing.
Is a correct answer. 843 passes. Number 15 in the list. So, Tom, you've won 3-0.
I'll let you have that one,
Thank
Tom.
you. I do appreciate it, honestly. It's all about the clean sheets in this game.
Exactly. I did a Crystal Palace.
I think, Tom, you're only actually the second person to win Know Your Stat 3-0. So you join a very exclusive club with Charlie Parks.
I do feel quite lucky, I got to say, because I was thinking, Russo was almost coming off my lips at one point there.
Russo was?
Oh, from the first question, I mean.
Oh, okay. Right, I'm with you now. I was going to say...
Yeah, who are the others? I was just trying to think of some niggly midfield maestros.
So the players that you didn't get were Alex Greenwood, Anna Patton, Ash Neville, Claire Hunt, Courtney Brosnan, Emily Fox, Hannah Hampton, Jordan Nobbs, Yorlin Karabali, Kirsten Kasparai, Layla
I was going to say her, and then I didn't.
Layla Ravi, Lucy Parker, Mariana Caldente, Molly Bartrip, Natalie Bjorn, Noelle Moritz, Poppy Pattinson, Sabrina D'Angelo, and Vicky Lasada. So they were the players that you could have had. But that was, well, definitely the most competitive round of the three, I can tell you that. But no, a good game, well played, Tom. And Izzy, listeners, you won't know this, but before we started recording, I did tell Izzy that no one has actually won 2 matches of Know Your Stat yet. And yeah, Tom, this was your winning debut. And Izzy, you won last time you were on, but unfortunately that's 1 from 2 now for you.
Fine. I'm going to get revising for the next
It's
one.
the Know Your Stat curse, you know.
Yeah. I'm going to spend my entire international break just like in the book.
A good
Just to be
game
looking
anyway,
at every
Izzy.
stat website you can.
Good game.
Yeah. The virtual handshake, I like it, guys. But yeah, commiserations, Izzy, but well done, Tom. There will be, I'm sure, rematches coming up. And I think at some point, I haven't quite worked it out yet, but at some point we might even have more than 2 people playing Know Your Stat at once to make it even more competitive. But well done, Tom, on your debut win. Izzy, you'll get him next time, I'm sure. And thank you both for coming on, and thank you, listener, as well, for tuning in to Decoding the WSL. As ever, if you enjoyed today's episode, please do make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow at Decoding the WSL on Instagram, and obviously for any more stats and insights, things like that, follow me at Stattorino on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok as well. Izzy, do you want to give a bit of a plug about Fantasy NWSL before we go?
I'll give you a plug about all WSLs and NWSLs. Yes, if anyone would like to play Fantasy NWSL, that is www.fantasynwsl.com, and you can also download it on whichever app store you use as Fantasy Soccer. Obviously, we're on the international break now for the WSL, but we're coming into the last 4 weeks, so stay tuned on all of our socials at Play Fantasy WSL to see some exciting things hopefully coming. And yeah, if all else fails, we'll keep the memes flowing. So
I do quite enjoy the memes. I like that as an added bonus.
thank you. We're very proud of them. I will tell you that.
I like it because it's saying you don't need to do that. You know, the game is the game itself, but no, it's very enjoyable.
No, the memes are really what it's about. The game's just aside.
Yeah. No, it's very good. Tom, I wanted to give you a chance to do a bit of a plug as well, because obviously, well, you're a few episodes in. I know you mentioned it last time you were on, but just in case listeners didn't hear that episode, do you want to give it a little plug to your new podcast?
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, so we've started a new podcast called The Halfway Line Show. You might know my co-hosts, Jamie Spanger and Beth McCowan. So we basically, we just talk as much football as we possibly can in the time that's given to us, which is all we can do, really. But yeah, it's good fun. So please tune in. You can get it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as well.
Yeah, it is a good listen. I've listened to, I was going to say every pod you've done, 4 or 5 now, I think. But it's good because you cover quite a broad variety of stuff. It's not just the WSL like we do. Obviously, you specifically do quite a bit on the League of Ireland as well, which isn't a league I know basically anything about. So yeah, it's really good to get that little bit of insight on it.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah.
But yeah, thank you, Izzy. Thank you, Tom, both for coming on today. It's been a really good podcast. I've really enjoyed it, and I hope you have too, listener. Thank you again for listening, and I will speak to you at the next one.